YouTube channel community, Mike Love fans, random people on the internet. My name is Giggens, and today we are here to celebrate album review number 100, and also an album review that a lot of people have been asking for basically since day one, and I wanted to hold off till a very special occasion. So on this, the 100th review that I've done on this channel, which blows my mind, today we're going to discuss Mike Love's Looking Back with Love, released on Boardwalk Records in 1981. Huh. Yeah, close enough. Here we go. Mike Love, Looking Back with Love. Mike Love, the lead singer, co-founder, co-lyricist, co of the Beach Boys. This guy. So this album has been regarded as one of the worst Beach Boy-esque albums ever released. And I wanted to go deep into this album because it's very, very easy to jump on and say, this album's terrible. I mean, it's really easy to say that. But on the other hand, I was like, alright, let's actually dissect this thing, let's take it apart. Let's try to figure out what Mike was going through in his life at this point, the people he was involved with, the Beach Boys as a group. Let's just do the whole thing. Let's give this thing a serious review on the YouTubes. So, I wore my Beach Boys shirt, I put my hair back, let's do a Beach Boys review of Mike Love's Looking Back with Love. This album is his first solo album, and for a long time, his only solo album. He had recorded several albums, and he has recorded many albums over the years that have just never been released. He had Country Love, and then, what was the other one? He had Country Love and First Love. First Love and Country Love were actually recorded in the late 70s, and nothing came from it, and then this happened. But let's back up a little bit. So, in the mid-70s, during the height of the 15 Big Ones, Brian's Back era, for me, I feel like Mike kind of rediscovered that he could be like the frontman of the band and kind of take lead control a little bit. I mean, he definitely dominated on stage. He was the main show. He's an excellent entertainer on stage. He does his whole shtick, and he's fun to watch. During that time, the Beach Boys became an insanely humongous concert band, and they were making money hand over fist, playing shows everywhere to humongous audiences, and so Mike definitely had the showmanship quality of himself to carry the group on stage, and not just carry it himself, but I mean he had a really big presence on stage. So with this, I think he also realized that, with the success of Endless Summer and Spirit of America, I think he always felt that, being Mr. Positivity as he calls himself, that he wanted to put out music that was reflective of his mood and what he was into and what he knew fans loved about the early Beach Boys sound, which was that surf, California, fun in the sun kind of feel. And with the release of 15 Big Ones, and then Love You, and then MIU album, and then the Light album, they're kind of spotty in terms of exciting tracks. I mean, okay, that's a really broad statement to say it that way. Love You was probably one of the best albums they ever made, but there's barely any Mike on that album. It's mostly a Brian Wilson album. So during this time, he actually founded a record label called Love Songs Records with a guy called Ron Outback, which I think I'm pronouncing his name wrong, and Charles Lloyd, guy who plays saxophone, Ron plays piano. And they ended up forming a band called Celebration, which was a really short-lived kind of group, fun in the sun kind of thing, just to, tour around and do some oldies. They ended up making this record label as a means to put out that music, and they had a pretty big hit song with a song called Almost Summer, which hit number 28 in 1978, which is a really pretty decent showing. And funny enough, it was co-written by Brian and Al, so there you go, a top 30 Beach Boys-esque song in the charts again, not even called the Beach Boys. So it's just interesting to think that here is Mike, one thing the Beach Boys were always good at was thinking they can do something on their own and thinking it would be better when it really would have worked better with the Beach Boys. Sometimes. I use that idea very loosely, but there were moments where it could have been just do it with the Beach Boys, it'll be okay. So, yeah, Mike kind of had this little bit of solo feel in the mid-70s, and then started to record a couple of solo albums in the late 70s that never came out, and then eventually this album happened. So around this time, the Beach Boys' career, 1981, Carl was doing his solo thing, and the Beach Boys as a unit kind of splintered for a little while, because especially after Carl left, because he wanted to focus on making new music and not relying on the hits so much, That kind of put a splinter into the Beach Boys for a couple of years there before they refocused and came back and figured out what they wanted to do. So in that time, I can't tell if this was a reaction to Carl making a solo album after Dennis had already done so, and even Bruce at this point. I'm not sure if Mike was kind of like, all right, it's my turn, or I'm bored, I gotta do something, let's make an album. So during this time, Mike also got remarried again, and to a woman named Catherine Martinez, which he cites on this album as an inspiration for the love songs. And Wolfman Jack was the guy that was the ordained minister that got them married. And apparently Mike wore an all-white tuxedo with a white top hat, which I would love to see a picture of that because that's amazing. And throughout this time, I guess they were working on songs to figure out what they wanted to do. So between June and September, this album was recorded on a mobile unit and also, which was at Mike's Santa Barbara estate, but it was also done at Sounds Good Recording, Condor Ridge, and Hit City West. He's just smiling so happily at me. It's a great picture. He's not wearing a shirt. I don't know, he's got a button-down shirt. Okay. And I was like, that's pretty bold, just wear a jacket with no shirt, Mike. So yeah, I mean, this was his only solo album up until 2017's Unleash the Love. Great name. And so that will be happening sometime soon as well. This was also released on Epic Records in the UK, which I think is the only deviant of the norm. Everything else was on Boardwalk. It came out on tape and LP. Excuse me. No CD and no digital release. Ever. So who knows if that's ever going to happen. But produced by Kurt Bichet, or Bisher. I can never figure out how to pronounce that guy's name. But yeah, it came out a few months after Carl's LP. And then right after this, the 10 Years of Harmony album came out, then eventually the Beach Boys medley thing. So, like, they were always constantly putting something out and being, in the spotlight, so to say. But let's just jump into this thing because this album is fascinating for so many reasons. The lead single on this thing, the title track, Looking Back with Love. This song is a mess. Musically, I think it sounds pretty good. It's got a nice melody, it's got a good beat. I think the chorus syncopation and the way he sings it and the melody there is really good and it's memorable and it's fun to hear, but some of the lyrics on this song are god-awful. He didn't write this song, thank God, but like it's just not good. It's got kind of like a roller skating rink, slow jam kind of feel, and that's fine. I enjoy the production to it. It's got a nice kind of a clean, tight feel to it, which leaves all the echo for Mike's vocal, which is good because I think Mike does have a great voice, but he really sticks out from the rest of the production on this song. But there are some lines in this thing where they rhyme good vibrations with assassinations. Who thought that was a good idea, and why did Mike say, yeah, I can sing that? Huh? Also, so much of the song is contradictory because so much of it is like, wow, remember how many crappy things happened back in the past, but now we're looking back with love. What? I mean, they also sing about some good things in there too, but like, overall, it's just got a special kind of terrible to it that's unmistakably, unforgivably messed up. Like, why would you rhyme good vibrations with assassinations? That's not only is that not a clever rhyme scheme, it's a terrible thing to associate with the two next to each other. Maybe they were going for some sort of socio-political feel with that, putting those two as a juxtaposition next to each other. But it just doesn't work. It's such a weird, bizarre thing to put together. Yeah, I do not like that at all. I do like some of the references to the music of the 60s, like talk about the British invasion and stuff, that's cool. I really think if they changed all the lyrics and kept the music, it could have been a much, much better song. But the lyrics for me do absolutely nothing, and they are really, really, in my personal opinion, not good. The next song on here, On and On and On, is an ABBA cover, and it's basically ABBA doing Do It Again, so it's kind of like Mike covering a band covering himself. It's got a really heavy synthy sound going throughout this thing, and the whole ABBA doing the Do It Again feel, the did-it, I mean, it's just been done, you know? It's just been done. It's not bad, but it's way too close to do it again. It sounds like Mike is covering himself, and it doesn't work. It's not horrible. It's not the most offensive thing ever, but it's kind of just forgettable. Running Around the World, not bad, but I mean the chorus is pretty fun in this song, but like the cheesy, like faux Beach Boys background vocals kill it, and this album is loaded with that. Why just when you're Mike Love and you're in a band called the Beach Boys, which is renowned for being one of the most insanely articulate and beautiful vocal harmony groups of all time, when you have that special blend, and then you try to like RC Cola-ify your sound with a new album on your own, it doesn't work. It's like the Equate version of something that's name brand. I can go on and on about this, but like it doesn't feel right. And I'm all for people trying new things and going out on your own and hanging with different people and musicians and trying to make something new, but if you're just going to do a cheap rip-off copy of yourself, I don't get it. Just go out with the Beach Boys. Just make a Beach Boys album. Like, I don't understand that. The whole point of a solo album is to do something different. How is this different? That said, I think the bass on this song is great. I think the hand claps are fun, and the drums are really upbeat, so that keeps the whole thing moving along pretty well. Over and Over. Oh my god. So, I started the intent of this video to not completely bash this album, and I'm really trying my hardest, but this song in particular, holy crap, I cannot stomach this song. Mike Smith would be... I wonder if Mike Smith ever heard this song, but like... so, it's this awful, terrible steel drum, Hawaiian shirt, straw in a coconut, Santa's going to Kokomo, awful migraine of a track. It's just, I actually feel slightly offended by this song. It does nothing for me. It's that terrible, cheesy, toes in the sand, like, Sandals Resort feel. Nothing about it works. You know, I mean, the Dave Clark 5 original version is a freaking masterpiece of early rock and roll. I love that song. It's so good. And then you just, like, dad rock the hell out of it on this one, and it's just not working at all. Whoo, boy. Rockin' the Man in the Boat. Interesting title. This song actually has some groove. It's got some soul to it. I can totally see Dennis singing this song, like, really nailing it. For me, this song could have been on Keeping the Summer Alive. No problem. It's not super exciting, but it's catchy. It's got some great horns. I think the background vocals are excellent because they don't sound like cheap Beach Boys ripoffs. This is the first song on the album where I'm like, yes, this could work. Mike doing like a hard rock feel with some of the soulful harmony in the background, some good melody. This works for him. Because this feels legit. It feels like he spent some time really hammering out a cool version of a song, and you know, it pays off. So I'm a big fan of this song. I think this song is the best song on the album so far. And it ends side 1. Side 2 opens with Calendar Girl, which has never really been one of my favorite songs anyway, but Mike's version, the way he, you know, drags up the word year, I'm not feeling that too much. This song is so syrupy, it makes the Archie sound like Black Sabbath. You know, this song in particular is safer than a yield sign in a 10-mile-per-hour pedestrian sidewalk. It goes nowhere. Maybe it's not supposed to strike new ground. Maybe this album really is supposed to be just a fun thing that he made with his friends to show off that he can do an album on its own. Maybe it's not supposed to be something we're supposed to take seriously. Maybe it's supposed to only exist just so we could put it on in the background and go, yeah, it's not that bad, but also I'm not paying attention. Be My Baby, the next track on this thing, this one I actually do have to be kind of negative about, because the original song, the Phil Spector production, the voices, that song is so full of yearning, of pain, of drama, of emotion, of soul. The build-up, the tension, the romance, the youthful expression of telling someone you care about them and wanting to just run away and be with them. All that is gone. This is such a soulless, emotionless version of this song, and I wonder if it was kind of like a to Brian because it's Brian's favorite song, but like, This version, it's bad, and I just cannot get around what I feel around this thing, because even if you do cover a song like this, you have to maintain that level of expression. Like, it's an emotional song, and the production alone carries so much of that in the original version. I know you're never going to recreate songs the way they're originally done, but with something like this, it's almost just like, just leave it be. Don't touch it, because you're never going to get that feeling out of it that the original recording had. Because that was such an honest expression of love in that original version. I just don't hear it on this one at all, and for me, it kind of kills it. One good reason. This song I actually really do enjoy. I think, again, if more songs were on the album like this, you'd have a pretty solid album. There's some really interesting vocal arrangements on this one. I think the background vocals on it are pretty decent. Because they're not trying to be the Beach Boys. They just sound like a group of people making nice music, which works in a solo setting like this. I really enjoy the chorus. I think there's great timing. I think there's great use of empty space throughout this thing. And Mike singing softly and delicately and kind of sweetly with a lot of heart shows off his talents. Mike is an incredible singer. I'm going to put that out there. I've said this before on this channel dozens of times. If you take songs like a lot of the stuff on Sunflower or Hushabye, I mean, he really, really knows how to sing, and he has a great voice. And I don't think he shows that off enough. I think he does a lot of the Catch a Wave, Surf and Safari stuff, and which is fine, and he definitely is amazing at that. But for a guy as talented as he can be, you'd think on his first solo album he'd want to show all those strengths. Unless he was just trying to be like, well, I know what sold when I was 20 years old, let's try to do that again. But that song in particular, I really do enjoy that song. Teach Me, I can see, or Teach Me Tonight rather, I can see Smokey Robinson doing this song pretty well. It's okay, Mike sings it pretty well. The instrumentation on it is definitely like adult contemporary radio, kind of like, you know, middle of the road kind of stuff. It's not terrible, but it's easily not the most offensive thing on this album. And then Paradise Found, the last thing on this album, last track. This, for me, feels like an Al Jardine song. It almost sounds like Mike's trying to channel Al through this one. A woman named Joni Summers joins in and does they duet throughout this track. And lyrically, it's some of the most inventive stuff on this album, and that's because Mike wrote this one. Hey, one of the best rock and roll lyricists of the 60s. Thank you for writing a song on your own album. You know, and that doesn't surprise me that's one of the best on the album, because he wrote it, and when he puts his mind to it, he can write some good songs. I mean, he wrote Good Vibrations. Like, those lyrics are amazing. The chorus piano on this track sounds like the Mary Tyler Moore theme song. The whole, like, we're gonna make it after all kind of thing. I really get a feeling about that. And the harmonies on this album, or on this track in particular, are some of the best on this album. And then it kind of fades away. This is a promo copy. So I got the promo stamp up there. And inside you got the jacket with the album name. And you got your credits and stuff, the musicians who played on it. Bruce Johnson's on it. Brian Wilson is not on it, but he was doing some early production work on it at first, which I think got erased somewhere along the way. And then your Boardwalk label there. And then, of course, we also have the cassette, which are, you know, one of two formats that this thing existed on. So, go back in. Yeah, so I really tried to enter this album as Switzerland as I could about it, because I didn't want to come in and just bash the whole thing. I really wanted to come in and explain why this album is the way that it is, and why people feel the way they feel about it. I think being in a band like the Beach Boys, there's a lot of pressure to live up to, and there's a lot of expectations. And I think if you're not Brian Wilson, people aren't going to instantly jump into your album and take it for a piece of art. I think Dennis got close, but his album didn't sell that well. Bruce Johnson's solo album, I don't think anybody bought. And then Carl's did okay, but people wanted the Beach Boys. And so at this time, you know, when Mike put this album out, he was just getting married again. He was in a good mood. Maybe, you know, there were a lot of other things at the time, like lawsuits and payments for things and a lot of BS behind the scenes. But like, maybe this was a cathartic release for him. Maybe this was an emotional release. Maybe he had to make this album of light, fluffy, safe songs to get through the hard time he was going through at that time. Even though there was some sunshine hanging around with his wife, a lot of the like legal stuff in the background may have been, you know, enough to drive him insane. And stuff with the band kind of splintering at the time. Maybe things weren't so harmonious, and maybe he had to make an album like this to make him feel good. And for that, we can't slag him for it, because people make music to feel better. And in that case, we have to see it for a different reason. We can't look at it and say, oh yeah, it's Mike Love, it's stupid, oh, we don't like Mike Love. We have to see it as, like, maybe this was a guy going through some hard times, making an album of music that made him feel better, and then he put it out probably with zero expectations of it being anything, or sailing up the charts, or even starting a solo career. He may have just done it to feel good. And in a world where life can be really freaking hard sometimes, how can we blame the guy for wanting to feel good? So, I'm going to leave it with that. Let that sink in. Maybe he made this as a therapeutic emotional release, while the results to us might not be the best. Maybe he needed to do that to feel happy and feel better about himself. If that's the case, maybe he was fine with what was going on. I know if I was in millions of dollars in debt, I'd be a little filled with anxiety myself too. That's just me. So, Mike, this has been fun. I look forward to unleashing the love with all of you soon on the next album review of Mike Love's discography. But that's it. This has been a super long video. My name is Giggens. Thank you so much for watching all of these videos. This is album review 100, as you can see from clicking on the video. Thank you so much for being here. And thank you so much for looking back with love, with Mike Love. If I had to give this thing a rating, I don't think I can, because of how I feel with the process that went behind this album. Musically, I'd probably give it like a 3 out of 10, but if this was in fact a way for you to get away from the world, then more power to you, man. Who are we to judge? My name is Giggens. This has been Album Reviews with Mike Love, looking back with love. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.